Okay, folks. Wednesday night, there was a, I guess, monumental debate between Andrew Cuomo, mainly between Andrew Cuomo and Zohran Mamandi. And in particular, I found some of these things quite funny. We're going to look at some of the clips from that debate and then that huge announcement that came from AOC after this debate, because it appears that AOC has officially endorsed Zohran. So that's out there in the open now. So we can't say she hasn't endorsed him. She has now officially endorsed him. And it's interesting, she waited to do so after the debate. We'll get into all of that and what the strategy is there. But first and foremost, we really got to go through some of the clips of this debate. Andrew Cuomo, based on what I saw, did not do well. And obviously, if you watch it, everybody was after Andrew Cuomo. And there's a lot to go after him for. He's corrupt. He's commercial. He's corporate. He killed all those people in the nursing home, things like that. And speaking of the nursing home, that's one of the first questions I wanted to dive into here. Check this out. Andrew Cuomo is repeatedly asked whether or not he was producing the report of the undercounted nursing home deaths. Listen to this, guys. This one is a big one.
I hear you. But the question is whether or not it's political and whether or not your congressional testimony was truthful. Were you, now that you've had time to reflect, involved in producing that report that undercounted those nursing home deaths?
Oh, there was no doubt that my administration produced the report, and it did not undercount the deaths.
Okay, but you're still saying you were not involved in producing it.
It's very clear. That's the Trump line, the MAGA line, right? Because this was...
No, it's not. So let me go ahead and stop here. What Andrew Cuomo is trying to do is the people who attack him because of the nursing home deaths, he's trying to basically say that's a right-wing talking point. No, you were outed by multiple outlets. Now, we're supposed to believe that everybody else was wrong and Andrew Cuomo is correct. And this is the same guy who told you that he didn't sexually harass any of those women, then later on came back and apologized. Why would you apologize for sexually harassing someone if you didn't sexually harass them? Things like that. I don't trust Andrew Cuomo as far as I can throw him. I don't. He's corrupt. He's corporate. He'll do whatever he needs to do for big business. He's also heavily tied to big real estate. He had difficulty trying to answer these questions last night. And I sincerely hope New Yorkers see that. I hope New Yorkers that watch this debate, they really take that in to notice that this guy is not who should be the mayor of New York City. And I don't have to live there to tell you that. He's very corrupt.
During the Trump reelection.
Okay.
The New York reports always counted the number of deaths where they occurred, in a nursing home or in a hospital.
Okay.
Now that all the dust is clear.
Okay, we have to move on, though. We have to give other people a chance. We'll all have a lot more time on other subjects.
It's a yes or no. It's a very easy answer.
All right, hold on, candidates.
Did you lie to Congress?
All right.
Will you acknowledge the deaths?
Okay.
I mean, it's a very black and white.
Okay.
Did you lie to Congress, or will you acknowledge the death?
All right,
15,000 people died, and he still won't answer your question.
All right, here's a chance to answer the question as Melissa presented it.
Yes.
Mr. Cuomo.
No, I told Congress the truth. No, we did not undercount any deaths. When they are all counted, we're number 38 out of 50, which I think shows that compared to what other states went through, we had it first and worst, and that only 12 states had a lower rate of death. We should really be thanking the women and men who worked in those nursing homes and did an extraordinary
job. Okay, very quick
yes or no follow-up, if I may. Just the question is, were you involved in the producing of that report? It's just a yes or no question.
I was very aware of the report. I spoke to it at press conferences.
No, before it was released, Mr. Cuomo. The question is about the production of the report.
Okay. All right,
Okay, we're going to move on. We're not getting an answer. We're not going to
stand by the report.
No, it was just a whether or not you were involved.
Let's move on.
Okay.
Mr. Myrie.
So you see what's happening here with Andrew Cuomo? Mr. Cuomo here had difficulty all night, by the way, last night, answering questions directly. He tried to dance around the questions because it implicates him, right? It just is what it is. This implicates Andrew Cuomo. He did not do a good job. And yes, he really messed up when it came to the nursing home deaths. And not only that, yeah, you did apologize for sexually harassing those women. And it just to me, it's just like I said, when I said this is the craziest week ever, like the fact that I feel that Andrew Cuomo is just riding on his name. That's it. You know, his father was a politician. He was a politician. He was governor. And now he's trying to be mayor of New York City. And I feel like he didn't really feel like he had to really do anything when he came into that debate because his name alone would be enough to get him by. And now we're starting to see that the race is getting closer because we're starting to see that Zohran is catching up to Andrew Cuomo. And now that he has that endorsement from AOC, that's probably going to help him, son. I don't know if he will win. I'll get to that a little bit later, but that is going to help him in some way, shape, or form. Now, we'll go to another fire exchange here between those two.
Why wouldn't President Trump target you and by extension, target New Yorkers? You have 1 minute.
President Trump will target whomever is the next mayor of the city. President Trump even targeted his, in many ways, accomplice, Mayor Eric Adams, who has collaborated with the Trump administration at almost every opportunity. And still, in the midst of that collaboration, we saw that New Yorkers are being taken off the streets in their apartment building lobbies. We have $80 million being taken out of our city bank account. So I don't think there's any question that there's any mayor here that will be free from being attacked by Donald Trump. What's more important, however, is that we have a mayor who will actually fight back. And that's what I will do. I am Donald Trump's worst nightmare as a progressive Muslim immigrant who actually fights for the things that I believe in. And the difference between myself and Andrew Cuomo is that my campaign is not funded by the very billionaires who put Donald Trump in D.C. I don't have to pick up the phone from Bill Ackman or Ken Langone. I have to pick up the phone for the more than 20,000 New Yorkers who contributed an average donation of about $80 to break fundraising records and put our campaign in second place.
Okay,
Mr.
Mr. Mamdani,
Cuomo.
thank you. Mr. Cuomo, you want to respond?
Let me just say something here. I think he did pretty well during this debate last night. Like I do. What he did right here is he's showing the difference between his class and Andrew Cuomo's class. Like, right? Like Andrew Cuomo's really cozy, like with the billionaire class. And he's basically showing, look, I'm representing the working people, working class people, the grassroots. That's the difference between the two of us. Although I will tell you something else. Because we're going to talk about the pros and cons of Zohran, because there's something about this guy to me that I'm trying my best not to fall for the mistakes that I fell for when AOC ran. There's some things about him to me that just gives me the impression that, you know, he's like a social democrat, DSA type candidate, that he probably will end up going the ways of AOC, where he tries to walk the line a little bit and still have some progressive cred, but, you know, still kind of bend over for Dem leadership. I get that impression from him. Now, I could be wrong, but just going with, you know, a feeling that I have. But you'll see there's two things that he did that give me pause. That really do give me pause. Now, he's not as crazy as Andrew Cuomo's ridiculousness self. He's not as crazy as Andrew Cuomo, but there's something about, you'll see.
Yeah, please. You know, Mr. Mamdani is very good on Twitter and with videos, but he actually produces nothing for him to accuse me of lying. He also called President Obama a liar and said President Obama was evil. So take everything with a grain of salt.
Well, is that a lie? See, this is the thing. Barack Obama was a liar. Barack Obama, you could say he is evil. Some of the things that he's done. How do you go to Flint, Michigan and pretend to drink dirty water in front of a room of people that have been infected by the dirty water? Is that good? No, I think that's kind of evil. Yeah, he was a liar. He ran on a bunch of shit that he had no intention doing or trying to do. He is a liar. That's okay to say that. This idea that we can't criticize Obama, although Obama thing is kind of going away. I'll say this to Andrew Cuomo as well. You might want to read the streets on this, because the reality is more and more people are tired of Barack Obama and his bullshit. Okay, so there's that. But this idea that these individuals, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, or the Clintons, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, these idea that you can't criticize people in that Clinton-esque circle because of their name and who they are or whatever is BS. There's nothing about that screams working class. There's nothing about that screams, free speech or grassroots. All of these people, what they all have in common? They're all corrupt. That's what they all have in common. So, Zohran wasn't lying. Barack Obama was a liar.
Donald Trump would go through Mr. Mondami like a hot knife through butter. He's been in government 27 minutes. He passed 3 bills. That's all he's done. He has no experience with Washington, no experience in New York City. He would be Trump's delight.
All right.
If he's only been in office for 27 minutes and he's passed 3 bills, then he's done more than a lot of people in Congress that have been there for years. This reminds me of the time that Joseph Kennedy III decided to run against Ed Markey for his Senate seat, it was just stupid. We didn't know what he was doing, but he decided to do that. And he really had no real reason as to why he was running other than he just wanted that Senate seat and he was a Kennedy. That's what this kind of reminds me of. Cuomo feels like he just deserves it and it's owed to him because of who he is.
Brief response, Mr. Mamdani, then we have to move on.
Look, it's true that I don't have experience with corrupt Trump billionaires who are funding my campaign. I don't have experience with party politics and insider consultants. I do have experience, however, with winning $450 million in debt relief for thousands of working class taxi drivers and actually delivering it to the working class people.
Thank you, Mr. Mamdani. Mr. Lander, you've presented.
So that was actually a good way to counter that, to challenge that question, because once again, he showed the class difference. That was a good comeback. I'm not going to lie. He's like, yeah, unlike you, I don't have that experience working with these billionaires and stuff like that. Like, that's you. Now, there's another part here that I want to get into. I don't think this is the same one. Let's bring it back up.
Why wouldn't President Trump target you and by extension, target New Yorkers? You have 1 minute.
President Trump will target whomever is the next mayor of the city. President Trump even targeted his, in many ways, accomplice, Mayor Eric Adams, who has collaborated with the Trump administration at almost every opportunity. And still, in the midst of that collaboration, we saw that New Yorkers are being taken off the streets in their apartment building lobbies. We have $80 million being taken out of our city bank account. So I don't think there's any question that there's any mayor here that will be free from being attacked by Donald Trump. What's more important, however, is that we have a mayor who will actually fight back. And that's what I will do. I am Donald Trump's worst nightmare as a progressive Muslim immigrant who actually fights for the things that I believe in. And the difference between myself and Andrew Cuomo is that my campaign is not funded by the very billionaires who put Donald Trump in D.C. I don't have to pick up the phone from Bill Ackman or Ken Langone. I have to pick up the phone for the more than 20,000 New Yorkers who contributed an average donation of about $80 to bring.
Yeah, so then it repeats that part. So I just wanted to say something here. This part about Bill Ackman. So now you know that Andrew Cuomo is also in bed with Bill Ackman. Does that mean something? Yeah, it does. Bill Ackman was the one that made the push for Harvard University to remove their president because of the pro-Palestinian protests. He's a staunch Zionist. That's who Andrew Cuomo is in bed with. New Yorkers, I don't know what to tell you other than this. If this is what you want, I could see more crackdown on speech. Let's get into this part here about the rent freeze. I thought he did a good job with this, actually.
If you are one of the close to 2.5 million New Yorkers who live in rent-stabilized housing, I will freeze your rent. And I will do that because you have a median household income of $60,000 while your landlord profits have increased by 12%. This is an act that will bring nearly $7 billion back into your pocket and back into the pockets of our local economy. This is what we will do immediately, and we'll do so because the mayor has the power to. Even though there are those like Andrew Cuomo on this stage who will tell you it's unrealistic, we know the previous mayor actually did this 3 times. And on top of this, we're going to build 200,000 truly affordable homes that are for the New Yorker who has a median household income of $70,000 for a family of 4. We'll
pause here for a second. This was a good point to bring up. Again, I just don't think Andrew Cuomo showed up prepared last night. I think he was riding on his name. One good thing that Bill de Blasio did is that he did that. He did a rent freeze. I think he did it 3 times in New York City. So for the people saying you can't do that, yes, you can do that. Other mayors can do this too, by the way. Wink, wink. Other mayors can do this too. They probably don't want you guys to know about it, but that is something that he did.
do this while taking on the very bad landlords and the real estate developers who are funding Andrew Cuomo's campaign, $2.5 million last time I checked. And we're going to do that because ultimately every single person needs to follow the law, and that includes the landlords who are violating our housing code and have $800 million in fines that the city have yet to actually collect on. If you are
New York City housing is for the birds, man. I lived in New York for a short time, and I got to tell you, nowadays trying to get an apartment in New York City is like, I don't know, looking for a needle through a haystack. Like, I think now the income requirement has increased post-pandemic. I think it's like that now in Boston too. I guess they want to make sure people can be able to pay just in case something like that were to happen again. So there's that. But it really is a rat race, like trying to find an apartment in New York City and then finding one that is somewhat suitable to somewhat near where your job is or whatever. Or I just think that it's very hard. And there's so much gentrification that has happened in New York City, especially in Brooklyn, like in neighborhoods like Williamsburg. Like, I am still shocked at how that changed compared to when I lived in Brooklyn. It's a problem. You know, that guy was right years ago when he said the rent is too damn high. And that continues. It's too much. It is ridiculous. Like, I honestly don't know how people are affording this. Ain't no way in hell in 2025 in the United States of America should people in their 40s have to have 2 and 3 roommates just to pay the rent. It's crazy, crazy times. Then we get to the part about Israel. Because, of course, they felt the reason to bring this up. And I'm going to show this to prove something. Watch this.
Mr. Mamdani, can I just jump in? Would you visit Israel as mayor?
I will be doing, as the mayor, I'll be standing up for Jewish New Yorkers, and I'll be meeting them wherever they are across the 5 boroughs, whether that's in their synagogues and temples or at their homes or at the subway platform, because ultimately we need to focus on delivering on their concerns.
And just yes or no, do you?
Okay. I thought that was a decent answer. Why does he need to go to Israel? Why does a mayor need to go to Israel? Now, I posted this on Twitter and someone was like, well, because they have the 2nd largest Jewish population. Okay. Why does he need to go to Israel? Because I just want, and any of you who lived in New York, let me know. Okay. You know what else, New York? There's a lot of people in New York. There's a lot of Caribbean people in New York. There's a lot of Caribbean people. You can look all through Puerto Rican, Jamaican, nobody is going to ask you during a debate, are you going to go to those countries? They're not asking you if you're going to go to Jamaica. They're not asking you if you're going to go to the Dominican Republic. They're not asking you if you're going to go to all these other countries. And there's a large Caribbean population in New York City. I know. But they don't ask you about that. They ask you, are you going to go to Israel? Why does a mayor need to visit Israel? They don't. This is that U.S.-Israel interest again. There are many countries in this world. And as mayor of a city, you really ain't got to go to none of them unless the city has been donating money. And that's what this is about. Boston, Massachusetts, we found out they donated $10 million a year to Israel. Yeah, we got people sitting on the street. We got veterans sleeping around Harvard Square. That's right here. Boston is way smaller than New York City. So if Boston donated $10 million a year to Israel, how much money has New York City donated a year to Israel? That's what this is about, to keep the money coming. And why the hell is Israel getting money from our cities when they have health care for everybody? They have free public college, and we don't even have those things here in our country. Our people aren't taken care of. Explain this to me, fam. That's what it's about. To keep the money flowing. You see what they do? This is what they do. They get these mayors and these city officials, and they're like, oh, we'll fly you out to Israel for a trip. They bring them out there. They treat them all nice and da-da-da. Yeah. And are you going to donate money to the state of Israel? There's no way in hell we should be funding any country when we can't take care of our own damn people. But here we are. That's what this is about. This is insane. Absolutely insane. So many people are calling this out on social media, by the way.
Yes or no, do you believe in a Jewish state of Israel?
I believe Israel has the right to exist.
Not
As a Jewish state?
Notice.
As a state with equal rights.
Oh, dear God. And see, this may be the reason why when people are talking about the AOC endorsement, he said he believes that Israel has a right to exist, right? But then notice how he said as a state that has equal rights. In other words, it sounds like he supports a one-state solution, which we've discussed before on the show. And the way that they respond to this is just baffling. Again, this is the United States of America. Watch how they respond to equal rights.
As a state with equal rights.
He won't,
Okay.
he
Not
won't
as a
say it
Jewish
has a
state.
right to exist as a Jewish state. Be very
And
clear
his
on that.
answer was no, he won't visit Israel.
I said that.
That's what he was trying to say.
No. Unlike
No,
you, I
you
answer.
never-
Unlike
you
you, I
never
answer
said
questions
no.
very
Okay.
directly.
All right, I
and
think
I
we're
want to
clear.
be
You
very
answered-
clear.
you
I believe
answered-
every state should be a state of equal rights.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mamdani. Mr.
And somehow that's a bad thing to say. Somehow it's a bad thing to say that you believe that every state should be a state with equal rights. These are the same people, the same politicians that, and Cuomo, as much as he tried to champion and say, I've been there for Black people in New York. Black people had to fight for equal rights in this country too. We had to fight to get out of Jim Crow laws. Black people had to fight to have, we had separate but equal at one point in this country, but it definitely was not equal. We had to fight. We had a civil rights movement. So how can you say you stand with us, but you don't want other people to have equal rights? See, this is why I want people to really wake up to. This is why I say I don't understand how people can fall for this bullshit. Anybody who is telling you, especially someone who's in the majority, anybody who is sitting up here telling you that they support you to have equal rights, but they're against other people having equal rights who are oppressed, that's a snake, boo. Because the same way he can say the things that he'll say about the Palestinian people, the same way he can have that attitude towards him, he can turn and also have that attitude towards you any minute. Especially the moment he doesn't need your vote. That's why I don't understand this. Why are so many Black people, when polled, willing to support him? That to me is baffling. Baffling. Now, here's something that's questionable about Mamdani. Everybody check this out. When they ask who's the most effective Democrat in this country, oh, this one's personal for me, honey. Listen to his answer.
I would say the most effective Democrat right now is Hakeem Jeffries.
Okay. Mr. Blake?
I would say myself because I actually defeated Donald Trump when I was vice chair of the DNC.
Mr. Mamdani?
Mayor Wu of Boston.
I got a problem with that. I got a problem with that. You know why? As someone who lives here in the Boston area, as someone who has confronted Mayor Wu about this issue before, Mayor Wu has been actively replacing Black people in Boston. Yes, Mayor Michelle Wu has ramped up gentrification in Boston. It didn't start with her, but she continued it. Gentrification has happened in Boston under the leadership of Mayor Menino, towards the end of his mayorship, under the leadership of Mayor Marty Walsh, and it continues under Mayor Michelle Wu, but she has ramped it up. In fact, you'll hear more about this when my documentary is released. The documentary is called Removed, and it's going to take you through all these people in Boston that have been kicked out of their neighborhoods. Mayor Wu is also a friend to big real estate. Now, Zohran, one of the things he criticized Cuomo about is being a friend to big real estate. Well, so is Mayor Michelle Wu. So if you're against Cuomo being a friend to big real estate, but you say Mayor Wu is most effective, do you not know that she's pushing Black people out of their neighborhoods? Who do you think signs these agreements for the developers to do it? Who do you think is actively taking over stadiums in Black neighborhoods and giving them to teams like the U.S. soccer team? So now the Black kids have nowhere to go play. That right there for me was a red flag. And like Mayor Wu, she was similar to Zohran in the fact that when she ran, she was saying some of the same things that he said. That is why he gives me pause. That is why he ran on affordable housing. Tia Wheeler's in the chat. She knows she ran on affordable housing. In fact, that was her number one big thing. And instead of that, her response as mayor has been, let's get Black people up out of here, tear down the buildings, and let the developers build luxury condos. I've interviewed several people about this in Boston. That gives me pause. That's who he kind of reminds me of. Mayor Wu and AOC a little bit in the mix. That's concerning. There's another one. Can we go to part 2, Corey? As a Bostonian, I took that answer personally. Yeah, like that felt personal. When he said that, I got like a big, like I cringed, right? Because she's not who people think she is. It's like you gotta live here to see it, right? So that gave me some pause. And then the other part here, the endorsement. So now AOC finally does endorse Zohran. I told you if that happened, we would come on and we would cover that. And one of the things that she said here as to why she was endorsing him, Assemblymember Mondani has demonstrated a real ability on the ground to put together a coalition of working class New Yorkers that is strongest to lead the pack. In the final stretch of the race, we need to get very real about that. So, and she is ranking him first. I want to get into the ranked choice voting, which is one of the things that she said could be done to really help him win here. He did obviously accept that endorsement. He said AOC is a once in a generation leader who has led the fight for working people in Congress. In 2018, she shocked the world and transformed our politics. On June 24th, with AOC support and this movement behind us, we will do the same. So there we go there. Now, obviously, there are many things to criticize AOC for, but he's not going to criticize someone he just got an endorsement from. And from what I understand, there were talks of this for this to happen prior to it. But I'm telling you, like, I know he stood up for the Palestinian people, and that's great. I really do, appreciate that. But the part that I wanted to say is that I get this feeling with him, and I don't know, man. I really do feel like he's going to be like a male version of AOC or Mayor Wu. That's the feeling that I get because he's still inside the machine. Now, one of the things I think that she wants to do is ranked choice voting for this particular election. Listen to this.
Couple of days.
And ranked choice voting makes this all the more interesting, especially because you've got AOC saying, okay, there's a strategic push to make sure that it's not Cuomo in this.
Right.
But then you look at some early polling that shows that right now, at least, that it is Cuomo's race to lose.
Yeah, the Working Families Party, there's this larger campaign to rank everybody but Andrew Cuomo. And, the fact that AOC has endorsed Mamdani and then ranked Adrienne, telling people to rank Adrienne Adams second, which really does actually boost her. But there's a question of whether or not all of the progressives in the city can unite against Cuomo and kind of follow this slate. It remains to be seen. It may be a low turnout race. I do think Cuomo's support is probably don't have a number two for him. They're going out just to vote for him. So this ranked choice sort of dynamic becomes really important if you want an alternative to him.
Yeah.
That's also why both of these parties don't really want ranked choice voting, because it would shake things up. It would change things. But it was interesting. He said like progressives voting for Cuomo. Why would a progressive vote for Andrew Cuomo? It's really, really weird. So the thing is, if you still believe in that strategy, again, like I said, he's like social democrat, DSA type candidate. If you still believe in that strategy, he just got that endorsement from AOC. I think that is going to help him, but I don't know if that would be enough for him to win. And this is why I say that. Looking at the track record, it doesn't seem to help people win. When AOC endorsed India Walton lost to a write-in campaign, and she was polling ahead of that candidate prior to that endorsement from AOC. When she endorsed, what's her name? Wiley, Maya Wiley lost. Okay. Maya Wiley also ran for mayor of New York City. More recently, when she endorsed Jamal Bowman for his reelection, he lost. So her track record, what the track record shows is that an endorsement from her doesn't mean that you're going to win. But considering this race is getting tighter, it could help him get, gain more momentum in the polls. But is it necessarily going to make him win? I don't know. I think big money will find a way to make sure that it's Cuomo or someone like him. I could see that happening. But yeah, DSA type, if that's your thing, that's who he is. Very vocal for Gaza, though. And apparently wants a one-state solution for Israel with equal rights. Hey guys, this was a Sabby clip. If you like what you saw, hit that like button and subscribe.